Hey troops, GeneralJSmith here with the first in my new segment series where I'm basically just going to go through me making my first ever MOC. Recently, well I say recently, but I mean a while ago I did do a video asking you guys to leave down in the comment section what did you want me to spend my my money on, what did you want me to ask my birthday and all the different stuff to sort of help, appeal to you guys watching. And overall, I think the general vote was to go for a MOC. So, that's what I'm doing. Now, this, I want to point out, yes, I know, everyone's doing this, everyone's making a weekly segment series, whatever. I just want to point out now that this segment series will not be weekly in any way. It's very unlikely. Mainly because, really, I don't really feel the point in making it weekly. Number one, I could make it a lot quicker, because obviously I'm not doing anything right now, am I? So there's no real point making it weekly. Second, if I were to make it weekly, then I'd need a steady amount of income to be able to buy, new bricks and new stuff each week. I don't have that, which means it may be kind of strange between segments. For example, the next segment may come in like a couple of days or something, and then the segment after that may come in more than a week's time. So, who knows? But it's basically simply, the reason I'm doing it, and even though everyone else is doing it, is because I thought I might as well at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, I want to make my first ever MOC, obviously, and I thought to myself, I'm going to make my first ever MOC the same way, regardless of whether I, build it, whether I film it or not. So it doesn't really matter from my point of view, so I might as well film it. Now, these segments, you please have to leave in the comment section anything you don't understand throughout these segments, anything you don't understand, anything just, well, yeah, really. And I will either reply to you down in the comments directly, or I will make a separate video or something, or perhaps explain in another segment about what I was, what I was talking about. So, yeah. Now, bear in mind, this is my first ever MOC, so, don't expect all my wisdom to work every single time. But, I do like to think I know a fair amount about it, even though I've never actually made one. But, yeah. And these segments also won't be very long, I'm going to try and cut them down. Some of the segments maybe 10 minutes or something long, So, because really, I'm only going to talk about stuff that, I'm only going to do tutorials, like literal tutorials. As in, if I get like some more bricks and I make another wall, I'm not going to do a video on that. Even though I might have made a large amount, it's not really going to be helpful, because all I'll be saying is, oh, I built this other wall. From your point of view, that won't be helpful. I'm just doing these segments completely for you. Like, they're not really for me in any way. I suppose I do enjoy doing them a bit, but like, they are completely for you, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference to me. I'd build this the same way if I filmed it or not, as I said. So, it's only for you, therefore I need you to leave down in the comments. If there's anything you don't understand, any questions, any whatever, just leave it down there and I will explain it to you. But anyway, so, on this first episode, we are doing planning, or paper planning. The next segment will be physical planning, which I'll go into then. Basically, this is, well, as you can basically see, I printed this off Word. This is simply just a sort of, not table, but whatever this is, of the base plates and stuff. So just try and help me plan it, just where stuff is going to go, how big stuff needs to be, and all this stuff. As well as we're going to be talking about, measuring up. And for your first ever MOC, it won't be much of an issue if you're, making more MOCs, because you'll sort of know. But for your first ever MOC, you're going to need to know how many pieces to get, because assuming you won't obviously have any pieces to start with. Therefore, you need to know how big things are going to be. For example, if you want, say, a vehicle to come through a door, then the door's got to be a certain amount long, and then the wall next to it's got to be a certain amount long as well, just the maths involving. And by the way, just to point out, this entire thing is genuine maths. I didn't just like write it down repetitively. This is all stuff I needed to do, so you can see there's a lot there. But anyway, so first of all, yes, I printed this simply off Word, as I said. Nothing, I think, really, I'm not going to talk about how to do it, because that's obviously not Lego. Ask your mum or whatever if you don't know how to, like, make this sort of table on Word. But, it's pretty simple. So these, obviously, each box represents a base plate. My MOC is going to be 2 grey base plates long. Or, yeah, this bit. And then it's going to have 12 green base plates, which are obviously these smaller boxes. And you can see here, I have labelled some of the, different vehicles and stuff that will go in it. And just, all the different things. So, I've labelled up how many studs. Because really, don't do like how many centimetres or something is long. Because really, that is, yes, generally in real life, you're going to probably do stuff in centimeters and meters. Lego-wise, you use studs as the measurement. So remember to do it that way. Just basically everything you may need, you know, all the different parts to it, you know, this bit, and all these different things. Also, I use Sharpie for different parts of the base. For example, the blue are the walls that aren't going to move. The red are the doors. You know, just to try and differentiate. Because when you just look at a piece of paper, it can be a little hard. Also, the fact the doors obviously go further backwards rather than the actual walls, like, you know. Anyway, and just really try to also get to scale. Because now this particular segment isn't as much, you know, very helpful if you're making a smaller MOC. Really, this is more helpful if you're making a much larger MOC, something like, you know, 20 grey base plates or something, because then it will always be difficult to look at the entire MOC as a entire MOC as a whole, you know, just to see it all out in front of you. So that's why this sort of method of planning, where you can see the entire picture and everything, is a lot more helpful. But when you're making a smaller MOC, it's not as much helpful, but it is still quite helpful. I said helpful a lot of times in that sentence, but anyway. So this is simply what's going to be in the MOC. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more to this than that. There's going to be grass and trees and troops and all sorts. But it's just a general, and also you don't have to completely stick to this. It's just a general thing of where stuff is going to go. You know, you just sort of see how big it is and whatever. And then in the next segment I said we're going to go on into physical planning, which is basically this, except on the physical side of it. Like actually start to make it, but not really, but this is whatever. Anyway, so, yeah. Now, let's just start with the base, I suppose. The base is what has been outlined here, obviously. Yeah, now, at first, I was going to make this base simply just a rectangle, just 2 grey base plates, and that's it. You know, nothing coming out or going in or whatever. I decided to add this little bit because, one, I wanted it to, you know, have be a bit custom, you know. But also you've got to bear in mind that I don't exactly have all the money in the world, and as I said, this is my first ever MOC, so I couldn't make it too custom to the point where there's stuff coming out of everywhere. But you know, it's nice to make it a little custom rather than just like a box, because at the end of the day, anyone can build a box, really. But it's just nice to have a little something. But really, it's pretty basic. There's nothing really to it. For this MOC, I'm going to be using completely 2x4 light bluish grey bricks, or at least for the hanger bit, which is obviously going to be the largest bit of it. That will be the blue here. As I've said before, I've outlined the blue as the walls. The red and the yellow are the doors, because you've got to try and differentiate them, make sure you do. And in measuring the doors, obviously you've got to make sure you know what sets you want in there. For example, if it's a Separatist or Republic MOC, for example, the clone turbo tank, as you see, is going to be in this MOC. Therefore, the door has to be big enough to obviously fit the clone turbo tank. And I've actually got the measurements here. The clone turbo tank is 22 studs across, which means obviously the door has to be at least 22. But that doesn't just mean the door has to be 22. It means the wall next to it has to be 22. Now I'm not sure quite if this is very obvious to you, but at least when I first started, you know, I didn't really consider the more ramifications, if you will, of things. Like, I just thought, oh, well, I'll just make that door that big, and then it can just slide somewhere. But you've got to, you know, rethink. You can't just have this wall being that long and then a massive door, because it's not going to slide very far, is it? So you've really got to try and weigh this up. Hence why this section is quite small. This is where the troopers come out, and each one of these doors is only 4 long, or 4, you know, across. So there's only an 8 stud gap there where the actual doors come out. That's because that is the maximum I can have while still being able to fit this stuff in. You know, it all sort of works out, and it's quite difficult. You know, it can be sometimes. So, yeah. Now, obviously, this section will all completely be hollow, and you can put whatever in there you like. However, even though obviously you do have to make the door big enough so it can fit the sets, one of the great things about a MOC is the fact that there's this still image, so nothing's going to move unless maybe you just stop motion with it. So, like for example, the 80TE is 36 studs wide. This door is exactly 36, which means it'll be a very snug fit. But this is a still image, and in this image, the 80TE is here destroyed, and you're not ever going to see it coming out or going back in, because it's just a still image, as I said. So, you know, therefore, you don't have to actually, I mean, obviously make it believable. If you only make the door 2 studs wide, no one's going to believe it, but, you know, make it reasonably believable. you know, it doesn't quite have to fit. For example, the clone turbo tank and the ATTE can't technically fit in this area, but, you know, they don't have to, because there's never going to be a point where I put them both in at the same time. So, this is fine, really. It's just a mock, it's just, you know, a beginning scene, and, yeah, really. So, yeah. As I said before, just to reiterate this, and as well, leave down in the comments if you don't understand. This here, you have, these are the doors, they slide into this. These parts coming out are 4 wide, and obviously each door is 4 wide. I know obviously it doesn't very, you know, doesn't look very the same, but you know, whatever. You get the point. Now, this outside section, like from the very end of the blue to there, is 6, because you've got to bear in mind, each one of these walls is 2 wide, because it's, you know, obviously a 2x4 brick. And you've got to have a 4 space there. This will probably make more sense when I actually show you the physical thing in the next segment. But you've got to make sure that there's enough space for the entire door to fit. And again, this may seem quite obvious, but, you know, you've still got to make sure you can do it. Because, obviously, this is only 8 studs wide, as I said. And really, you've got to try and make it so... Well, that's not very much, is it? You know, 8 studs wide, that's pretty small. I mean, I've got a bark speeder here. And what, I don't know, this is 8 studs is a fair amount less than this length. So, and that's where the troopers are going to be coming out of. The reason I had to make it so small is because I needed the space here. And before you think, we'll just make this wall smaller, I needed that long so that this door could fit all the way there. If you see what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Now, just for the beginning planning, you don't have to think about like things on top. For example, there's going to be also the major hangar here where all the sets are going to go in, and on top of that there'll be a roof where I'll put like a little command center. You don't need to think about that really now. You know, I mean, obviously we haven't even built the walls, let alone the roof yet. So, yeah, but really it's more or less just what you see here. There's nothing really majorly to it. Yeah, it's just really a general plan. I mean, obviously you can change things in the actual physical thing. It's just raw, sort of a preliminary beginning plan to how big, if you will, it may have to be, or whatever, you know. It's also best to sort of measure base plates wise how long and big sets are. For example, I know the clone turbo tank is about 1.5 green base plates long, so that's why I try to make it, you know, so you can just sort of see really where stuff's gonna go, you know, and just how it's all going to look. But really, in the next segment, I've said this like 3 times now, but in the next segment we'll go into physical planning, where it's basically this, except on a physical scale. Not actually starting to build the MOC as such, just sort of starting to put stuff down, you know, to sort of see how it's going to all work out. But this is just really a beginning thing. And whether you're, like, starting with... like a big MOC or a small MOC, this is very helpful. It is more helpful with obviously bigger MOCs, so you can see the entire thing, but it is still quite helpful with smaller MOCs, you know, it just, yeah, really. I think that's more or less it. Oh yeah, by the way, forgot to mention, just before I go, pieces, what pieces to get, and what I mean by this is, like, say, this length is 96 studs, because it's 2 grade base plates, which are 48 each. Now, there's a lot of bricks you could different get to fill up that, you know, to get that length. You could get either 24 2x4 bricks, what was it, I think 16 2x6 bricks, or 12 2x8 bricks. What do you get? Do you get more of the smaller bricks, or less of the bigger bricks? I personally recommend more of the smaller bricks. That gives you a lot more possibilities for perhaps future MOCs, and just if you want to make it like, you know, it's just basically, I mean, don't get me wrong, overall I think it's about the same price, regardless. I mean, also though, if you're going for pick a brick and you're getting those cups, it's actually, you probably get a lot more for your money getting the smaller bricks, because obviously they can fit in. Bricklaying doesn't really matter as much, because, you know, obviously it's not an issue, you don't have to fit them in a cup, but, you know, you get the point. What you want to get is a bunch of the smaller bricks. It gives you much more opportunity to do different things. You can make the detail a lot more, well, detailed, I suppose. You know, just a lot of stuff you can do that you couldn't redo with the larger bricks. So I think it's definitely better to get a bunch of the smaller bricks than it is to get a few of the larger bricks. And it shouldn't really matter that much price-wise. Generally, on bricklaying or pick a brick, it will be about the same. It's not gonna, you know, like, I mean, for example, a 2x8 brick is gonna be roughly twice as expensive as a 2x4 brick. It's just logic. But yes, really, that is it then. I suppose this segment, nothing really more to talk about. You've got to plan a lot of maths when doing this. Also, I recommend that really, obviously, buildings are very many layers of bricks. So really, what's best to do, and I'll talk more about this later. But what really you got to do is like have, well, make it in the same way you'd make a house. Like literally, order them in the way you'd order actual bricks, like actual proper bricks. You know, instead of just like laying a 2x4 on top of another 2x4 exactly the same way, you know, put it to the side a bit. Like for example, you know, instead of just say this, you know, instead of just laying it like that, lay it like this, you know, and then obviously it would continue on. Give it a lot more support, a lot better. And yeah, and also bear in mind, it's probably best to try and get as many of the same piece as possible. As in, don't try to get, you know, a bunch of different pieces. You know, if you can, get as many 2x4s or whatever as you literally can. Like, don't try to interchange between, oh, put a 2x2 there or a 2x6 there. Try to get, you know, it'll just be a lot more helpful, really. Just a lot more helpful in a lot of ways. You try and get as many of the same brick as possible, rather than many, like, you know, a few multiple bricks, if you get my meaning. And yeah, and also bear in mind, obviously, you need sort of to fill stuff up. For example, a lot of this, basically the entire thing is made up of 2x4s, but then I'm also going to get some 2x2s to fill up those gaps that obviously, because I'm laying them in two different ways, that's yeah, the gaps that they can't just simply fill up, really. But anyway, so I suppose that is it then to this segment. There isn't really much more to say. This part is more maths and actually looking at it before you really start building. Because once you start building, yes, obviously you can take it apart, but really it's easier to rub out a mistake here and redo it than it would be to perhaps if you've started building and all that stuff and you think, uh-oh, I wish that was like that or whatever, you know. So anyway, there you go then. This segment was actually quite long. I'm hoping to make the other segments shorter, you know, because I'm only thinking like 10, 12 minutes. But anyway, so there you go. If you like this segment, please do leave a like below. If you like this new series I'm doing, well, it is technically a series, but like it's not going to be in any way weekly or anything. The schedule is going to be very random. I'm literally just going to do videos whenever I can, which means it will just be whenever really is possible, to be honest. Whenever I have something genuinely new to show you, or rather, these will be purely tutorials, as in there will not be anything else. I'm not going to just like be showing my progress as such. I mean, obviously you'll be seeing my progress, but it's not a case of I'll make a video, as I said before, where I go, you know, oh, I made a new wall today, because from your point of view, yeah, I mean, you might find it entertaining to watch my progress, but really, you don't need to, because these are just going to be purely tutorials, and I do updates for those sort of things, so, yeah. Anyway though, so if you did like it, please give it a like below. Please do down in the comments if there's anything at all you didn't understand. Please leave it down there, because that's, well, at the end of the day, this is the only reason I do them. I just do it simply for you guys. So please do that. And also please subscribe to my channel if you want to see the rest of this series. I don't know, I mean, really, there shouldn't be too many segments at all, because I'm only going to show you different new things I do. The next part will be physical planning. In fact, if I move the camera up, you can see I've already kind of started, you know, you can see that I've already kind of started to outline the base and different things, but anyway, anywho, that is that, and I will see you then. Hopefully in the next one I will have some pieces, not all of them, bear in mind, but some, to at least start something. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you stay awesome. Bye troops.